Hello and welcome to my channel, Bevvy with Beth. I'm Beth, and in case you didn't know, on this channel I talk all about polycystic ovarian syndrome, the symptoms, how to cope with them, and how my personal journey with PCOS is going. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below to catch my videos every single week. And today we're going to be talking about binge eating. So today I just needed a bit of extra warming up. So I've got this delicious tea from Twinings, which has turmeric, star anise and orange. And turmeric, of course, is very good for us to have with PCOS because it's a great anti-inflammatory. So I've made it with a little bit of hot water, and then I brew the tea in it and then top it up with goat's milk to make a latte out of it. And that's what I'm drinking today. And as I said, we're going to be talking about binge eating. Is something that a lot of people with PCOS struggle with. So I wanted to talk about why it is a struggle for us and give a couple of resources that I think might be helpful if it's something that you are struggling with yourself. And if you want to stick around until the very end of the video, I have something personal to share with you as well. So first we're going to look at why binge eating is connected so much to PCOS. So I have talked before about how our bodies don't consume energy from food properly, particularly the glucose with the insulin resistance and how that whole thing works. So it is the PCOS, the high androgens, and also I can't say the proper name, so I will write it up here, but it's when we have a low CCK as well as high insulin and high androgens. And basically this creates a chain reaction within the body, which means we're not using our energy correctly. So it literally demands to have more energy. Now, the reason this tends to lead to binging, as opposed to simply a little bit of overeating or just in general eating too much all the time, is, of course, most of us, when we're diagnosed, are given the advice to lose weight. And the problem with this is losing weight with PCOS is not an easy thing to do anyway. And most of us will then simply look for traditional methods of losing weight. You know, there are plenty of places to go to find out how to lose weight fast and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, those typical diet cultures, so I'm talking about the kind of like calorie restricted or doing a crazy diet for a week to slim yourself down, and those kind of typical diet culture, low calorie, low fat type diets have already been proven to create this high androgen, high cortisol, low CCK result in women who don't have PCOS, which means if we have those things already because we have PCOS and then we do these same diets, we're simply exacerbating our situation. And what happens is that demand for food, particularly for sugary foods, becomes overwhelming. It becomes like an instinct that we literally can't deny it. And so it then becomes impossible to eat a normal amount. So we end up eating a large portion of food. Of course, this then triggers the psychological side of binge eating, in that kind of you restrict yourself, you binge, you feel bad about it, so you restrict yourself even more to try and compensate for your binge. It's a very typical cycle that people on normal diets with normal bodies would go through, and we have an extreme version of that, basically. So if binge eating is something that you're currently struggling with, particularly if you desperately want to lose weight, then you can see how that psychologically is creating a cycle of restricting, binging, and then overeating. Another aspect of PCOS that makes traditional dieting very difficult to do is also our pro-inflammatory state. I haven't talked much about inflammation in a complete sense here on my channel, but I have mentioned it before, that things like eating dairy and gluten, high omega-6 and high sugary refined sugar foods can create extra inflammation in our bodies. But this inflammation is actually the key part of our chronic illness in PCOS that we need to look after more than anything else. And definitely I have seen by looking after that aspect of PCOS, that part of our PCOS package, it really helps everything else to fall into line. It helps us to get our androgens under control, our insulin under control, leads to weight loss. It's been shown that the traditional low calorie, low fat, restrictive diets that are very traditional in our diet culture actually cause inflammation in normal, healthy bodies. So again, we can see how having PCOS, already being in an inflamed state, going into these traditional diets simply makes our condition worse. And although I myself have found a particular way of eating that I definitely feel has helped me out the most, which is the keto diet, this diet is an incredibly restrictive diet. I mean, you're literally cutting out almost 100%, like 90% of carbs. That's an incredibly restrictive diet. And so it's definitely not something that I would then just recommend for everybody. It helps massively, especially for people with insulin resistance. I can understand that if you've had a history of trying to follow diet culture, you've fallen into a restrict binge cycle, that to then try and look at a highly restrictive diet isn't going to be the way forward for you. And so I had a little look to see if I can find some advice that may be a little bit more universal so that I could help you out rather than just tell you what's helped me. And one of the things that I found, which I was really pleased with, is it's a dietitian that I follow myself on YouTube. She's called Abby Sharp. And she herself has PCOS, and she did a little episode, which I will link down below, where she spoke to Julie Duffy Dillon, who is a nutritionist specializing in PCOS. And she talked very much about how she helps her clients. So I'm using her words. So obviously go and watch the video to get it in full context. But this is the piece of advice that I thought would probably be the best to pass on to you guys. When we, as a PCOS sufferer, crave carbs, her advice is to step back and find out why that craving has come up. Is it because we've just experienced something highly stressful? Is it because we haven't eaten enough during the day? Is it because we just generally aren't eating enough protein and so our bodies are actually craving that protein energy? Did we have a bad night's sleep? Have we done a lot of exercise in the last few days? Did we maybe forget to take our supplements? And she explained that by taking a step back and looking at what has happened around this intense craving, it will help us to understand what we can do to support those cravings and how to basically limit the amount of cravings that we have without having to actually restrict what we're eating, if that makes sense. Again, check the video out down below because she explains it much better than I can. We know that PCOS is a chronic disease, so we do have to keep adapting all the time. And that's certainly something that I'm finding myself. So if you're still with me at this part of the video, I appreciate you so much for listening all the way through. And I wanted to let you know that I myself am struggling with binge eating, that I've learned a lot from Abby Sharp in particular, but also some other people, some more videos that I will link down below that have helped me to understand that what I'm struggling with is actually binge eating. And so I'm planning on doing more research, on doing some more personal videos about how I'm coping with it, what it looks like for me, because like with everything, my binge eating won't look like your binge eating. But maybe if I can talk about how it's affecting me and how I am coping with it, we might be able to help each other out. So if that is something that you'd be interested in seeing, do leave me a comment down below to say that that's the kind of content that you'd be interested in, and I will definitely make it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. PCOS. And it's that high inflammatory cause this inflammation. believe it helps can't speak, man.